Join our community by subscribing. Every click helps us share more stories like this one. The introduction. The sun dipped beneath the horizon, casting elongated shadows across the desolate streets of Elmwood. A chill settled over the town as nightfall descended, transforming its familiar faces into distorted specters. It was a quiet evening, the stillness broken only by the occasional cars passing through the main thoroughfare. Nestled between the crumbling old buildings, there was a small diner, the Rusty Spoon. It had seen better days, yet its neon sign flickered gallantly, drawing in late-night wanderers like moths drawn to a flame. Inside, a waitress named Lily on a table by the window, frequently glancing at the clock. It was nearly closing time, a fact she was eager to welcome. The loneliness of the diner was only broken by the hum of the radio playing classics from an era long forgotten. But tonight, the air felt heavy with something more ominous. The conversation of a group of regulars was punctuated by hollow laughter, masking the tension that lay just below the surface. Each customer was unaware that just outside the diner's windows, a fate worse than any of them could fathom was about to unfold. As the hour crept closer to midnight, a stranger pulled into the parking lot, quickly flicking off his headlights. A uniformed officer patrolling the area, Officer Marks, raised an eyebrow but didn't intervene. He had seen many faces pass through this town, but there was something unsettling about this one-hour restlessness in his posture that set off alarm bells. Minutes later, with the bells of the diner jingling softly behind him, the stranger stepped inside, glancing around as if weighing the atmosphere before taking a seat at the counter. An unspoken understanding hung in the air. Elmwood was about to be thrust into a nightmare that would uncover the town's buried secrets. The victim. Dawn broke over Elmwood, a glimmer of light cascading over the town's sleepy streets and revealing the remnants of what had been a seemingly ordinary. But as the sun rose, it laid bare the eviscerating aftermath of a crime that would grip the community tightly in its jaws. Just 3 blocks from the Rusty Spoon, nestled between a quaint flower shop and a defunct convenience store, was the home of Melissa Thompson, a vibrant, ambitious 28-year-old known for her infectious laughter and fervent passion for paint. Melissa was an artist thriving in a world she often expressed through bold strokes of color. The walls of her small studio apartment were adorned with her creations, each canvas a testament to her struggles and triumphs. This morning, however, Melissa would not punctuate the air with laughter or color, her neighborhood with her spirited presence. Instead, her sister Emily stood at the front door, knocking, her heart pounding in sync with the rhythmic sound. "Melissa, it's time for breakfast," she called, expecting her sister's cheery response. But silence answered. A knot twisted in Emily's stomach as she transitioned from light-hearted calls to a sense of foreboding. She pushed the door, which yielded easily, swinging open to reveal the chaos within. The living room was in disarray, furniture overturned, art supplies scattered as if a violent storm had ripped through. The walls, which once held visions of beauty, now seemed to grotesquely mock Emily's worst fears. In the bedroom, she found Melissa. The once vibrant lifestyle had faded into tragedy, a scene from a nightmare that played out in crimson shades. Emily's scream reverberated through the silence of the morning, carrying a visceral heartache that would cascade into the lives of many. In that moment, The world outside Melissa's walls continued turning, oblivious to the life extinguished within. The town of Elmwood was about to confront its darkest reality, anchored by the haunting question: who would dare to harm the artist who had seen beauty in the world? The crime scene. As word spread through Elmwood, the small town quickly transformed. Blue and red lights pulsed against the morning mist, casting an eerie glow that flickered across the cracked sidewalks. The once inviting atmosphere of the neighborhood had turned tense as police barricades went up, sealing the area noticeably, still buzzing with onlookers and the curious. Detective Sarah Mitchell arrived at the scene, her focus honed from years of experience. She stepped out of her car, a steely determination in her gaze. With her notepad in hand, she surveyed the growing crowd, feeling the weight of their scrutiny, a heavy mantle resting on her shoulders. She had been in roles like this before, yet every case breathed its own particular heavy. Inside Melissa's apartment, red and yellow crime scene tape jutted across the doorway like jagged teeth. The air was thick with the acrid scent of cleaner, mixed with the bitter residue of something more sinister. Crime scene technicians moved methodically, every movement measured and precise. As Sarah entered, her eyes honed in on every detail, cataloging the chaos that met her. Paintbrushes were strewn across the floor, some splattered in shades of vibrant red that hinted at an underlying darkness. The easel stood broken, its canvas crumpled to the ground as if it spoke of an unfinished story abruptly severed. Sarah squinted, trying to piece together the shattered reality. There were no signs of forced entry. The apartment felt personal, a brutal invasion into the sanctity of Melissa's life, not a burglary. "Detective," a voice interrupted her thoughts. Officer Mark stepped forward, his brow furrowed with concern. "Melissa's sister wants to talk. She's been pacing outside." Nodding, Sarah made her way back out, the cacophony of voices outside blurring into a dull hum. She was acutely aware of the effect this tragedy would have not just on Melissa's family, but on the fabric of the community itself. It was never just about solving the crime. It was piecing together lives shattered in its wake. They would need answers. And she was determined to find them before Elmwood was engulfed in the shadows of fear that accompanied tragedy. The early investigation. The sun climbed higher as Detective Sarah Mitchell sat across from Emily in a small, dimly lit interview room at the Elmwood police station. The hum of fluorescent lights buzzed in the otherwise silent space, creating an almost surreal backdrop to the weight of the moment. Emily Thompson's eyes were red-rimmed, the very definition of devastation, yet they held a fierce determination to uncover the truth. "Can you tell me about your sister?" Sarah asked, her tone gentle but direct. She had seen grief manifest in myriad ways, and understood that it was crucial to navigate this fragile moment with care. "She was everything to me," Emily replied, her voice quaking. "Melissa had dreams. She was going to have her first gallery show this summer. She was so excited, always working, always creating. She loved life." Right. Her relationship with Ben, it was complicated. They broke up a few months ago, but I know he was still calling her, trying to win her back. Emily paused, her fingers twisting nervously in her lap. "I told her to be careful, but she wouldn't listen. She kept saying that they were just having a hard time." Zara scribbled notes as Emily spoke, weaving the threads of a potential narrative. it was essential to grasp not just who Melissa was, but also the dynamics that may have set the stage for conflict. Do you have any way to contact Ben? Any mutual friends who might have insights? Emily shook her head, tears brimming again. They didn't hang around the same crowd anymore. I know he got angry when she moved out, but I don't think he could ever hurt her. He loved her. As Sarah listened, a new theory started to form. The complexities of love and heartbreak often blurred lines that should remain clear. With every detail Emily shared, the picture grew murkier relationship, spiraling into something dark. This would not be an easy investigation, but Sarah felt a burgeoning urgency. Truths lay hidden behind lives that seemed vibrant on the surface, even as shadows lurked behind the canvas. She had to piece it together carefully, striving to illuminate the darkness that had claimed Melissa's light. The dead ends. As days passed, the weight of Melissa's murder hung like a storm cloud over Elmwood. The once bustling diner now lay muted, patrons whispering in hushed tones, exchanging glances as they contemplated who among them could harbor a killer. Detective Sarah Mitchell pushed through the quiet morning crowd, the cherished aroma of fresh coffee doing little to lighten her mood. She settled into a booth, flipping through her notes. Emily's words echoed in her mindbend's anger. The complicated nature of their relationship at every lead only seemed to loop back on itself. Sarah dialed Ben's phone number, only to be met with a monotonous voicemail message. Getting no answer, she decided to visit his apartment, a drab building on the outskirts of town. The hallway smelled of stale cigarettes, and Sarah knocked firmly on Ben's door. After a long pause, it creaked open to reveal him, disheveled hair and sunken eyes, a shadow of the man Emily described. "I didn't do it," he blurted, as if the weight of her badge unspooled all the defenses he had erected. "I'm not accusing you, Ben," Sarah replied, trying to maintain a professional demeanor amid the tension. "I just need to understand what happened leading up to Melissa's death." "I told her it was a mistake to move out," Ben said, frustration flickering in his gaze. "She left me, but we still talked. Then, she just stopped. I thought we were figuring things out." His voice faltered, giving way to desperation. As Sarah probed deeper, it became apparent that Ben was reeling from the breakup, yet his responses hinted at a self-serving sorrow. Still, she could not ignore the palpable void of resolution in the room. Emily had claimed he loved her. He claimed to want her back. But love could wear a sinister mask when jealousy and hurt curdled beneath the surface. After leaving, nothing lined up. His alibi of being at home that night fell flat, as he had no one to corroborate. With each encounter, Sarah felt a creeping sense of disillusionment. The leads that had once appeared promising dissolved into air, leaving behind only a growing list of unanswered questions. Elmwood was a town shrouded in silence, and amid the whispers, Sarah sensed more buried in its shadows. But where to dig when every path led to a dead end? The investigation would need fresh eyes, a different perspective to pierce through the fog. A break in the case. Days turned into a week, with each sunrise bringing not just light, but also the relentless, omnipresent weight of despair felt across Elmwood. Detective Sarah Mitchell often found herself retracing her steps, replaying conversations, and analyzing moments that, at the time, seemed insignificant. The staleness of dead ends only deepened her resolve. She would not let this case slip through their fingers. One evening, Sarah sat in her office, poring over a stack of reports and witness statements. As she flipped through pages, her eyes landed on the sketch of a suspect seen leaving the Rusty Spoon that night. A witness had described a tall man with a distinct tattoo symbol that had caught her attention, but was ultimately deemed a minor detail. The witness had claimed he looked unkempt, as if he'd been caught in a storm. As she ran her fingers over the sketch, she began to piece together the timeline with the patron list provided by the diner. A flicker of recognition sparked when a name blinked into focus. Danny Miller, a known local who had a history of altercations and was a frequent diner. She recalled conversations where he'd been mentioned as someone who had taken an uncomfortable interest in Melissa's artwork and had even approached her for commission. Sarah set to work immediately. A quick search revealed Danny had a checked past and a penchant for trouble. She'd seen his name crop up in minor assault cases, each stemming from disputes that flared into violence. But his last known address was the other side of Elmwood, a neighborhood that lay stagnant, the kind of place people often forgot existed. After securing information about Danny's whereabouts, Sarah paired with Officer Marks, and together they staked out the old neighborhood. The late afternoon light bathed the street in a soft hue, but the air remained thick with tension. Then suddenly, they spotted him. Danny loitered outside a crumbling building, his unkempt figure looking strangely out of place. I guess they have trust you're shifting from laid back to agitated as he opted for a quick escape. "Danny Miller!" Sarah called out, her voice firm. He turned and bolted. Sarah and Officer Marks kicked into pursuit, adrenaline coursing through their veins. In that moment, the myriad of dead ends converged, morphing into a singular opportunity scent of potential truth lingering just ahead. The suspect. The chase through the narrow alleyways twisted Sarah's thoughts into a whirlwind. Danny Miller darted frantically, glancing back as if sensing the urgency of pursuit. Strong legs propelled Sarah forward, each desperate footfall echoing against the alley's grimy walls, while fear and determination fused into a singular purpose. Just as they rounded a corner, Danny stumbled, catching his foot on a loose brick. Sarah sized the moment, lunging forward and tackling him to the ground, her adrenaline-pumped body pinning his limbs. "You're not going anywhere," she yelled, breathless, as Officer Marks quickly came to assist, handcuffing Danny with practiced efficiency. As they dragged him to his feet, Sarah's gaze hardened with intent. "We have questions about Melissa Thompson's murder," she stated, observing him carefully. Danny's eyes widened, panic overtaking the bravado he had just displayed. Sweat dripped from his brow as he tried to shake off the apprehension. "Murder? I didn't do anything, well, not like that," he stammered, the tremor in his voice betraying his bravado. Once in the interrogation room, the atmosphere felt heavy with impending confrontation. Sarah sat across the metal table, her expression steady, eyes locked onto his. "You know why you're here, Danny. Witness put you at the Rusty Spoon the night Melissa died. So let's start with why you left so suddenly." He fidgeted nervously, glancing down at his hands. "I wasn't doing anything," he muttered, the bravado slipping further away. "Yeah, I was at the diner. Melissa, she talked to me sometimes. She was nice. I just wanted to support her art, you know? But that night I got some bad news, so I left." "Bad news? What kind?" Sarah pressed, pressing forward on what might have ennobled his emotions. Danny's eyes darted around the room as if searching for a lifeline. "I found out I was being kicked out of my apartment. I panicked, okay, I was running away from everything. Not her. He had cracked a little, but the excuse felt flimsy. A feeling deep inside Sarah told her there was more. How did you feel when you found out she had moved on? Danny flinched, eyes swirling with frustration. Look, she took off. She left me behind when she moved out. I just wanted her to care again. Moments stretched as silence emerged, Danny's voice reducing to a whisper as reality sunk in. While Sarah listened, fueling her intuition, she instinctively sensed that beneath his resentment lay a more complex narrativon, fueled by desperation and longing twisted into anger. As he recoiled at their line of questioning, a question lingered. Had that desperation driven him to the unthinkable? The answers were hidden in a dark corner of his psyche, and Sarah was determined to bring them to light. The trial. The atmosphere inside the small Elmwood courthouse was heavy with anticipation as the community gathered to witness the proceedings against Danny Miller. A mixture of apprehension and hope swirled among the onlookers, everyone acutely aware that they were witnessing an event that would define their town's future. The pomp of the courtroom contrasted sharply with the grim reality of Melissa Thompson's untimely death, a haunting reminder of the life that had been snuffed out too soon. Detective Sarah Mitchell sat near the front, her eyes focused intently on the judge as he entered. She'd spent countless hours revisiting every detail of the investigation, the evidence threaded through witness statements, the connections that had drawn the police to Danny. As the trial kicked off, she remained attuned to the flickers of emotion flashing across the room, wary of the raw grief and anger clinging to Melissa's family. The prosecution painted a vivid picture of Danny, the artist whose love turned into obsession, culminating in a desperate confrontation that a single night forever altered. They unveiled evidence, not just the painstaking forensic details, but his previous altercations that showcased a growing pattern of volatility. Each testimony stitched together a narrative of heartbreak twisted into rage, a portrait of a man who, in his deepest despair and longing, could have crossed a line from torn love into irrevocable loss. As Sarah listened, she felt the gravity of every word. Melissa's sister, Emily, took the stand, her voice trembling as she recounted her sister's dreams and the bright light she radiated, starkly contrasting with the darkness that had enveloped their family. She deserved better, Emily said, her tears falling freely as she relayed their bond, her devastated expression resonating in every corner of the courtroom. But the defense presented a different story, attempting to undermine the prosecution's narrative. What if Danny Miller was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time? What if he was running away from a past that was closing in? The defense attorney argued, attempting to shift the focus onto Melissa's other relationships, suggesting that she had her share of admirers, people who could just as easily harbor resentment. As Sarah watched this unfold, she noted Danny's shifting demeanor. The initial bravado he once displayed had faded into something softer, his face reflecting a troubled soul trapped by circumstance yet unwilling to fully face the consequences of his actions. Ultimately, it would be up to the jury to dissect the layers of evidence, feeling the raw emotions that reverberated through the testimony. As verdict day arrived, tensions mounted. The breaths held in the packed courtroom were heavy with anticipation. Sarah could feel the pulse of the crowd. Justice for Melissa had become a collective need, one that tethered everyone together amid sorrow and uncertainty. When the jury returned, the atmosphere felt charged with an electric tension that seemed to pause time itself. As the foreperson stood to read the verdict, Sarah clenched her jaw, awaiting the resolution of a case that had morphed into something larger than life, a communal battle for truth and closure. The aftermath. The gavel struck sharply, reverberating through the courtroom as the verdict was uttered. Guilty. The word echoed like a thunderclap, displacing the heavy silence that engulfed the room. Gasps rippled through the gallery, a mix of relief and sorrow. Detective Sarah Mitchell felt the tension in her shoulders ease, if only slightly, knowing that justice had been served. Yet the weight of loss remained palpably present. As the spectators began to disperse, chaos gave way to an unsteady stillness. Outside the courthouse, a swarm of reporters clamored for attention, shoving microphones into the faces of those willing to speak. Emily stepped forward, her eyes red but resolute. The only thing that can mend this wound is time, she told the cameras. Each word laced with the weary understanding that healing would not come easily. Sarah stood aside, observing the aftermath unfold, feeling a pull in her chest. Justice had been achieved, but the scars left behind would run deep, weaving the pain of loss into the very fabric of Elmwood. The sense of safety that had once blanketed the town now felt tenuous, frayed, and worn. No one had been untouched by Melissa's tragic end, and the community would carry her memory as a haunting reminder of fragility in life. In the following weeks, the impact rippled through the town. While there were conversations about addressing mental health issues and the importance of community support, whispers about the case lingered in every corner. Sarah was determined to be a guiding force, working with local organizations to create art programs in Melissa's namely a way to continue her legacy and promote healing through creativity. Just as Melissa had inspired others with her work. Yet for Sarah, the echo of that case was more than a joke, it was personal. With each brushstroke of paint that spiraled through the art program she helped create, she could sense the town trying to reclaim its heart, its vibrancy forged anew through the very pain of loss. Sarah found herself often visiting the gallery space where Melissa's art was featured, now adorned with handmade pieces from the community's budding artists, all expressing stories too often left unsaid. Though the night still held echoes of darkness, the colors of hope began to rise, intertwining with each emotional canvas hanging on the walls. Amidst the lingering shadows, she and the community sought light in transformation, learning that life could continue even after unimaginable grief. In time, as Sarah gazed at those vibrant pieces, she felt the promise of resilience, a reminder that even in the aftermath of tragedy, beauty could emerge, sowing the seeds of healing for future generations. And so, Elmwood moved forward, forever changed, yet bolstered by a collective strength born from love and memory, determined not to let Melissa Thompson's light fade completely from their life. Reflection. As the weeks turned into months, Detective Sarah Mitchell often found herself reflecting on the case. The sorrowful shadow it cast over Elmwood, the ache of Melissa Thompson's absence remained palpable, a ghost that lingered in the thoughts of every resident. She often returned to the gallery, where the colors of communal artwork burst forth vibrant against the starkness of grief. Each canvas told a story of loss, hope, and resilience, and Sarah could feel the deep ties weaving the town closer together. One afternoon, as she stood admiring a piece reflecting the sun setting over a lake, crafted by a young girl whose own brush strokes told of innocence lost. Sarah was overcome by a wave of emotion. The power of art to heal had unfolded in ways she had never fully recognized. It wasn't just Melissa's artwork that had brought the community together. It was the very act of creation that offered solace in turbulent times. In her reflections, Sarah came to understand that the pursuit of justice extended beyond the courtroom. It hinged on the fragile threads of connection forged in shared grief and love. The town was learning to confront its pain, transforming it into something luminous, a collective act that celebrated the life of a spirited artist taken too soon. As she prepared to leave the gallery, Sarah paused at the entrance, contemplating how to honor Melissa further. She envisioned a yearly art festival dedicated to raising awareness about mental health and the importance of connection through creativity. Lasting tribute to a life cut short, yet filled with purpose. With renewed conviction, Sarah stepped into the sunlight, aware of the shadows still lurking but resolved to embrace the light. While loss marked the past, the future held the promise of healing woven into the fabric of community, forever evolving, forever carrying Melissa's legacy into tomorrow.